Forget trying to keep up with AI. It's moving too fast. It's time to think differently about it. Welcome to the AI Readiness Project, hosted by Kyle Shannon and Ann Murphy. They're here to help you build the mindset to thrive in an AI-driven world and prepare for what's next.
It's a bop.
It's a bop, everybody. I don't know if we can change our theme song. I thought we were going to, but now I'm like attached to it.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. We can change it, but it's a thing. It's a thing. Good to see you,
I'm
Em.
used to her.
I know. Exactly.
Good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing
Sounds
well.
like I missed a banger at the AI salon last night.
It was a really good one. We had Mike Levine from Movie Flow, which is it's like a much more it's like a better thought out LTX studio, but instead of being built by technologists, it's built by movie guys. And so we had him, and so we were talking a lot about that. And then Liz Miller Gershfeld co-hosted. Leah is moving to California, so she's going to be out for a few weeks. And so Liz hosted, and Liz is doing all sorts of really amazing work. And she was talking about having to pull in all these different tools and things like that. And so that's kind of what I want to tee up today. But how about you? What's your week been like?
Well, a highlight I'll share is that today is the final class of our first ever, a historical first, of our first cohort of the She Leads AI Certified AI Educator Program.
Oh, wow.
So
congratulations.
As soon as everybody, so all that needs to happen now is people finish their internships. So they finish the coursework, they finish their internships, they submit their media kit to us so we know they can go out and get hired. And then they all graduate and they're officially certified, I think, for a year. We haven't quite figured that part out yet, but yeah. So nice. We're open for business.
Nice. I love it. So given that, how ready for AI are you this week? Now, here's a question I have. If you're providing the certification, are you certified?
Okay, I figured that I just get to just wave a magic wand and I'm certified. So
I think you get a waiver. I think you get a first-year waiver. Next year, you're going to have to recertify.
Oh yeah, I'm going to charge myself some money and make myself take some tests.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you doing? Where's your head?
Where's my head at? Well, I mean, I'll mention a little thing I noticed today. But I won't dwell on it, but I want to share it in case anybody else resonates with this. I've noticed recently I have a little bit less tolerance for my just regular everyday foibles because I can do so many things with AI and I feel so smart and I'm like living at my my superpower era.
Your amplified self,
Today in the mail, right? I can't do we finally got I've bought 86,000 microphones to use when I'm making content. I finally got one. I've been doing content for like 4 or 5 years. Why does it take me 86 microphones to find one that works? That's not normal. I can do so many other things. So I feel more impatient with myself now. I don't know about other people, but
no, listen, I think dependence on AI tools is a very real thing. And for me, it's not that it's funny that there's that trope out there, and there was that MIT study that was this kind of flawed study that said that AI makes you less smart, it lowers your critical thinking. Basically, all it proved was that if you don't use your critical thinking, you don't use your critical thinking. It didn't say AI made you stupider in the end, but yeah, I like what I find is that I think the thing that I'm addicted to with AI is it allows me to live in that higher plane of creative thinking where I don't get pulled down into the weeds, right? And I can just sort of live as a producer, like as a puppet master, right?
Yeah.
And I love being in that place. And so when I encounter things in the world where I now have to do the little tactical details, it just feels like a waste of time, and it feels like a waste of my brain power, and it feels like a waste of energy. And so that's the thing for me. Like, I don't feel like it makes me dumber. I just you just said it. You have less tolerance for that kind of activity in the world. You know?
Yeah, and I'm very happy to be living in our little AI bubble, because I can't imagine being in the work world right now, working with people who don't use AI, and that having that mean that I have to waste my time because they don't use AI. I would be such an insufferable colleague if I was in a normal business right now. Absolutely insufferable. I think there's a delay on my end, Kyle. Is there a delay on your end?
No, well, I see a delay for you a little bit. Yeah, it's your machine sometimes gets a little tired.
What I can do.
Yeah. So while you reset your machine, I'll share kind of something that's. So a couple of things going on. Tomorrow, GPT-5 comes out. I didn't know if you knew that, but tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific,
10 a.m.
It looks like there's going to be GPT-5, GPT-5 Mini, and GPT-5 Nano, which is fascinating because that could be something that runs on a phone. Is where my head goes with that they might have a phone-based model, which could be amazing. And a bunch of other things came out, including a thing from Google called Genie 3, which is you invoke 3D worlds into existence that you can then go interact with and walk around in. And like one of the examples they showed is you can like paint a wall with like a paintbrush, and then you turn around and you turn back, and the things you painted on the wall are still there. Like, these are full-on worlds that you can walk through at 24 frames a second, interact with the physics of the world. It's not out yet, but we're entering a new era. And then, combined with last week, I did the Back to Basics AI crash course. And what struck me the most is how complicated it is to just know the basics anymore. That knowing what ChatGPT can do is kind of a Herculean feat at this point. Just knowing how to use different image models and which one has which personality, like which one's good at text, which one's good at images, which one's good at logos. That's all things that you have to learn, right? And then as you learn them, the skill when you apply this in the real world is not any one of those tools individually, but just having them as kind of a palette, like a painter's palette, where your job is to maintain the vision for what you're trying to accomplish, and then be able to, like a conductor in an orchestra, or a painter, pick the right colors, pull in the right tools at the right time, and use them. And so you need to be nimble enough with the individual tools to not get bogged down in the details, right?
Yeah.
To be able to bring them in. And so for me, the importance of critical thinking and of adaptability and kind of resourcefulness are the really important things. But the baseline for what it takes to be able to be in that space is you kind of have to know a fair amount of tools. So you have to get there. And it's not as simple as it was when we started this game.
No, it's not as simple as it was when we started this game, but along the way, we've learned a lot of things. We've learned you don't have to know all of them, right? We've learned
you can narrow down.
You can narrow down. We've learned that it's a trap to try to learn them.
It's totally a trap.
We have learned that.
You and I have both learned.
We both learned that. One thing that I've learned that I bet other people have learned, and if they haven't, this is a pep talk then, is that the tool is so much more complicated in your head than it is when you roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty. It is always like, because it's so like face meltingly like advanced, you're like, oh, you must have to be just a mad scientist to be able to make that work. Now, obviously there are some things that are like that, like Hugging Face and whatnot, the stuff that, our genius friends use. But like, you open up VO3, you're going to figure it out. It's not going to take a day and a half to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not as hard as it seems. It seems otherworldly, but it's really just like any other skill, getting your hands dirty.
Yeah, it's get your hands dirty. And each individual tool is relatively simple. There are some exceptions. You take something like Leonardo, or some of the video tools have so many bells and whistles that it can be overwhelming. But I think just the general capability of being able to generate an image in an image generation tool, relatively the same across tools. But you have to kind of play with them enough that you start to internalize which ones are better at what things, right?
Yes.
Some people really love the writing style of Claude. Some love ChatGPT. Some love the research of Perplexity. And that's something that I think everyone's going to have a different version of the mix, right?
Yes.
What are their go-to tools? And there's no wrong answer. But I think the art right now is getting competent enough at the individual tools that you can kind of forget about them and just think about the problem at hand. Who are you doing this for? How are you trying to affect them? What does success look like? And then, okay, let me start with ChatGPT. Okay, now I'm going to run over to Perplexity and do a little research, or Manus or GenSpark, and make some slides, whatever it might be. It's just that ability to kind of nimbly navigate those tools, but maintain the blinders for the idea. That I think is the art. And I don't think I think people who will be good at this are people who have already done that, right? Like creative directors have always had to wrangle multiple resources to, execute a vision, right? That they hold. And they might have some artists that are stronger at one thing than the other. And they sort of know who in their bullpen that they can deploy. And that's, I think, what we all get to be now. But if you don't have those skills, I think that's something to develop.
So absolutely. So I haven't seen the data on this. Maybe you have, but anecdotally, my sense is that lots of people who are adopting AI more quickly than others are in some way neurodivergent. And particularly with ADHD, ADD, AUHD, I just see a lot of us getting so much relief so fast, and also so much dopamine, that it's just we're just addicted to it, right?
We're sitting there at the crack pipe.
Exactly. But I think that our ability to hold on to multiple things at one point in time is part of what makes us really good at it. Like we can live in that like chaotically three-dimensional space. Even me, and I mostly do boring stuff with AI. Even me, I'm able to bring in things from lots of different areas and make it and weave it all in. And I think it's because I don't have to write anything down. Like it's all there.
Yeah. It's if you've got a brain that's good at synthesizing things, taking small amounts of information and being able to quickly draw a conclusion to that, I think that kind of brain is really good at, okay, I need this tool, I need that tool, I need that tool. To the extent that you're more deterministic, you're more like, I've got this thing that I do, and this is the thing I do, and you want to stay in a predictable lane, this is likely going to feel more uncomfortable for you. It doesn't mean you can't do it, and it doesn't mean you can't go deep on a subject, but it does mean that if you only focus on that subject, you cut yourself off from a bunch of other things that you might be really good at and not even realize it.
Yeah.
Like Roger Scott in the AI Salon, software engineer for 35 years, like deep into software engineering. Turns out that skill applies really nicely to prompt engineering and Midjourney. And he loves making art. And so he got really good at making art because he took an analytical approach to prompting.
Oh.
Right. And so I think that there are gifts if you're in a deep vertical there are gifts waiting for you if you sort of come up out of it and go horizontal and play with some of those other tools.
Yeah. Two things I want to say. One is that as you go through like this analysis of the tools, the skills that are going to be like the real skills of the future, I'm utterly convinced that basic, everyday, run-of-the-mill kindness is a ginormous strategic advantage. If you can hearken that kindness within yourself on a regular basis, while everybody else is melting completely down around us, I mean, they're going to be showing their ugliest selves, right? It's going to be awful, and we've seen it start on social media.
Yeah.
All of us have been dragged recently, right? One of my friends who is the most, I mean, she's a PhD, she's a social justice like expert, she's a neuro something, she's like the smartest person I know, and her heart is like 100% in the right place, got lambasted by somebody over AI being evil.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if she gets lambasted, no wonder why I did. It's about to be a mean, mean world.
Yeah, people are in their amygdala takeover, right? They're in fight or flight, and they don't want this. And I think what's happening is it's becoming more and more apparent it's not going away. And so I think that has people in a bit of a panic. But to your point, I think empathy and kindness, I think, are the way, because when you get someone who's in that space and actually hear them and say, I understand why you're scared, I understand why you might be pissed off, whatever it is, can I show you something? And you get them side of that thing and they're like, oh, I didn't know it could do that, right? And all of a sudden they're in a different frame of mind. That's a remarkable moment. So speaking of that, let me talk about a thing that I think is worth paying attention to this week. So today is Wednesday, August 6th, and 2025, in case you're watching this 3 or 4 years from now as a historical document.
an artifact of the olden days.
An artifact of the golden age of AI. Tomorrow we get GPT-5. Yesterday we got GPT-OSS, which is the open source version of ChatGPT. Yesterday we also got an announcement from Google for this thing called Genie 3, which is you can prompt a 3D world that you can then enter and interact with. I saw one video of a guy like walking down a dirt road with puddles in it, and he turned the camera down to look at his feet, and you see his feet doing this, and when his foot steps in the puddle, the water ripples. Like, these are full-on 3D worlds with physics that are being generated. This is not, the AI does not generate a 3D world and then you walk through it. It's generating the 3D world with persistence at 24 frames a second. We're entering a different phase. And what I would encourage you to do for this next week, this is the thing to pay attention to, is that give yourself the grace that everything you've learned up to this point may not be as relevant as it was last week. And the skills you need to have to use the stuff that's happening this week, you probably don't have, because we've never had this level of tool before. So I would say this is a good week to get curious, pay attention to announcements on X and Sam Altman and things like that. Go tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific time is the announcement of GPT-5. If you've got time, watch that, or watch a YouTube replay of it. Not that you have to learn anything from it, but just watch it so that you're aware of at least what's being claimed, right? Because
that's right. That's what I was going to say.
They're going to say sort of the most positive thing about it, right? And it may or may not do that as well, whatever. But at least understand what's being claimed, because if it's even, 75% of what they claim, it's probably going to be a very new way of working with AI. And if you have yourself locked in or trapped back in, end of July 2025 mode, as depressing that is, this is a good week just to remind yourself that adaptability is probably one of the single biggest aptitudes above critical thinking. I think critical thinking really, for me, remains the thing, and I'm super excited to talk to Leon because I know he's very passionate about that. Our guest today. But yeah, I think this is a week to just remind yourself to be adaptable and give yourself a little grace that maybe you're not, if you feel like you're farther behind than ever, we all are this week.
Well, here's the good news. We're all going to get this. Wait, are we all getting it? Or is it rolling out over and it's just one of those fakey fake things where you're really not going to get it in 2 months?
I think they're going to launch it.
Okay. So,
I mean, they might start with the pro tier just as a slow rollout. Yeah. But I think something will launch tomorrow. Like, I think we will know tomorrow what it is. Okay. And if it's good, and like how far up on the benchmarks it is, and does it actually unify all the different models, and you don't have to pick models anymore. Like, there's a bunch of things that are promised that are sort of speculated, and we'll find out tomorrow what they are. And then, we get to spend probably the next 6 months figuring out how to use this thing.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to do the same thing to us, just treat us just like full on guinea pigs, not tell us anything about how to use it, and just see what happens when we bang our heads against it enough.
Yes. Promised. I promise you. I promise you that. Well, in fact, for the open source model, they teamed up with Kaggle, which is a data source company, and there's a $500,000 bug bounty for people to kick the tires. So if you want to do testing on the 20 billion parameter open source thing that they launched yesterday, there's prize money if you find a bug. So, but yeah, they are absolutely putting these things into the world. Well, I mean, here to be fair to them, they've got a company full of the smartest engineers in the world reinventing how computers even can work, right?
Yeah.
They think in a very particular way. Yeah. It's a very mathy, very deep, dense, right? Systems framework kind of way. They're not going to think about it like the way an animator looks at this tool, the way a business person looks at this tool, the way an entrepreneur looks at this tool, the way an educator looks at this tool, right? So they cannot, just by definition, they cannot anticipate how people are going to use this, what's going to work or not. So it is on us to be the guinea pigs. Like, that's part of the design.
We should all put it on our LinkedIn. We are OpenAI R&D.
Exactly. Cranky Gen Xer in the OpenAI.
Cranky Gen Xer / R&D for OpenAI. Okay, I have a question for you. Were you the person who asked me how we process our grief over when the tools that we've all, stayed up all night around the clock for the past 2.5 years, when it doesn't, those skills don't matter anymore? Is it you or somebody else? But
I've definitely talked in that area because I think it is a grieving thing. Like or especially if you've built something, you've built a custom GPT, or you've built a thing, an automation, and you're like, oh, this is great. And then something just comes along and now it just does that.
Well, what if it was your company, for example?
Well, there's going to be a lot of companies like that, right?
A lot of companies.
And again, it goes back to the word of the week, adaptability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think how you put it is right. Like, I think you do have to mourn the loss of when that thing had value, right? Whatever it is. And then I think you need to move on quickly, because I don't think any of us have the luxury of kind of wallowing in those losses, because I think they're going to come fast and furious. And this is not it's not a judgment. Like if you spend a bunch of years building a business and then all of a sudden it's just not needed anymore, that's sad. You're not going to get over that overnight. But I think even small things, I learned to use this tool. Like you said, I learned to use this tool. I learned all this prompting framework. You're telling me that's useless now? Yeah.
No. No. No.
We all need to spray Teflon on our back so the water just bleeds off it, you know?
Oh my goodness. No, I still tell people they need to know how to prompt, but knowing how to prompt actually is a universally helpful skill. It makes you a better communicator.
I was just saying in general, you learned a specific kind of prompting. No, I think prompting is still valuable, but I don't think prompting is a requirement anymore.
Yeah.
I think there are lots of different ways that you can get these. If you look at the Grok image gen tool and movie gen tools, there's very little prompt engineering you need to do in that thing. You can just sort of ask it for what you want and it does it. And I think a lot of people's first experience with AI might be a tool where you don't have to prompt all that much. You just get kind of magical stuff out of it. And that's fine too, right?
Yep. Yeah, so, if they have, especially if they have a good experience those first couple of times, if it actually works, then it'll be golden.
Exactly. So why don't you tell the good folks about this organization you have?
It's so cool. So our mission in She Leads AI is to unite accomplished women to advance AI for global prosperity. And we get to do lots of things in the quest for that mission. One of which I was, sharing earlier in the show. This is our first cohort in our certified AI educator program that is graduating. And that means that there are now a handful of women who teach, responsible AI the way, give or take, right, with their own personal flair, but the frameworks that we use, and they are capable of pitching themselves and writing scopes of work and getting paid and serving all sorts of communities, including through their internship, which is they get to teach young women in low-income countries how to use AI. So that's been a really rewarding experience. It's just an example of the kind of thing we get to do. We have She Leads Reads. We have a consulting agency. We've got our AI Academy that Michelle Muncie Silva runs, and that's external facing. We've got a conference. It went from being like a few posts on LinkedIn in 2024 to this.
Yeah.
It really started in December at Festivus, at AI Festivus.
Right. Yeah.
And it's all happening.
Amazing.
And it's all people. It's all because of people. I'm not doing this by myself.
Yeah. You cannot discount your vision and your contribution, little missy.
There's a little bit of that, but
you are doing some remarkable work. You do have a really good team around you. So congrats to all of you. It's really good. Let me tell you about the AI Salon. So the salon I put together with Leah Fasten, who's a photographer out of Boston. She's actually moving to San Francisco this month. So she is putting things in boxes and literally driving across the country. But the salon is a community of about 3,000 AI optimists and people that are playing first with AI. And one of the roles I think of the AI Salon is to really explore, the humanity of AI, right? How do you use AI to amplify who you are? How do you make sure that it's serving people, not, exploiting people, things like that. So there's all sorts of really good dialogues. It's people experimenting, it's people building things. And more importantly, it's people, we call it generously leading. It's people learning out loud and sharing what they know and inviting, newcomers in. A lot of times with communities, as they level up, they'll get kind of elitist, and if you come into it, it's kind of intimidating. One of the things I think is powerful about the salon is people are very, very generous and they're very welcoming, and there's no judgment that you're new here, right? Because I think we all recognize that, to my point this week is new tools are coming out. We're all effectively starting over. So if you feel like you're just on the ground level, to a great degree, we all are. And that's what the salon is. And then within the salon, we've got a thing called the AI Salon Mastermind, which is a subscription area of the salon for people that want to step up their game and want to get to know each other better and really support one another. And that's been quite powerful. So really love that stuff. And then the other thing that we should tell you about is our AI readiness training program. We've got new branding, a brand new look and feel, which we're super excited about. And if you go to areyoureadyforai.com, this is a comprehensive course. I would call this like an AI mindset training.
Yep.
Right tool. That this isn't about learning any specific tool. You won't learn that here. You won't learn how to use Midjourney or this or that. You'll hear people talk about it, but what you'll learn is how to think about it, how to apply critical thinking, all that sort of stuff. And so go check that out. That's now available, and super excited about it.
And you get a certificate at the end, and it's not a gimme, because Vicky made this course. I mean, it's you can't not watch the things. You have to watch them. Vicky's she's detail-oriented person. The questions are hard.
It's true. It's very true. Great. So with that, I am excited, as I know you are, to bring up our very special guest, Leon Furze. I think it's Furze. Do you know?
Furze. Yeah, he said Furze, one syllable, like Furze. Leon Furze.
Not Furzy. Not Furzy.
Not Furzy.
No, there's no drama here. No, I'm super excited to bring him up. He why don't you tell the good people about Leon?
Well, Leon is going to enlighten us quite a bit, Kyle, because his work overlaps with some of the stuff that we do, but it also goes way farther out, and he's nerdier about it than we are and more writerly about it than we are, and we'll be able to break it down like an academic does. But I encountered Leon in one of the many, many conversations about AI and education and pedagogy and assessment. And I was particularly lured in by, he has created, I think with a collaborator, but maybe himself, this AI assessment tool. And the idea is that the way that we've been doing assessments forever is wrong, right? And that that now we get to break the broken model completely.
Wow.
And then the other thing is that he is very involved with how critical thinking and AI go hand in hand. So I'm really happy to have a chance to introduce him and get to know him better.
Hello, Leon.
Hello, Leon.
Welcome. Thank you. Good morning or good evening. I'm sort of broadcasting live from the farm in Southwest Victoria, Australia. So it's 8:30 a.m. over here.
8:30 a.m. What do you have on the farm?
Lots and lots of sheep, like thousands of sheep.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah, so nothing to do with AI.
I was going to say, are they AI literate, your sheep?
Well, I don't know. Maybe. You never know, would you? Maybe we could create an AI that can understand sheep language. We started to do that for cows and dolphins.
That's awesome. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are. What should we know about you?
So I'm a farmer. No, I'm a PhD candidate. I am a former educator. So I was working in secondary education for 15 years, tertiary education. And November 2022, right at the start, I began my PhD in generative AI, broadly digital texts, which is kind of my area. And then a couple of weeks later, ChatGPT came out and sort of blew everything up. So for the past few years, I've been consulting, advisory positions with schools, with sector organizations over here, some of the independent schools, everyone really, because the whole world seems to have been thrown into chaos by things like ChatGPT. So just a real sort of wild ride out of the classroom and then into this role of supporting people to understand artificial intelligence. And I mean, you mentioned before I was listening to the show from behind the scenes, and we were talking about the way that this seems to be really accelerating out of control now. And I think a lot of people, particularly in my world, a lot of teachers have been feeling that pretty much since the release of ChatGPT, but it never seems to stop. And, every time I turn around, there's some new feature or some new thing or whatever. So my role is really to try to kind of float across the top of all of that and cherry pick out the really important things for educators and for students, and just help them to say, okay, you don't need to be across everything, but here are some things that would be really helpful if you do understand and get your head around these right now.
Yeah. How do you square the circle where you've got particularly, I find it completely baffling in education, quite honestly. You've got the world's most profound knowledge tool has been invented and handed to us, and a lot of educational institutions are like, never shall we play with betwixt the evil tool. And yet you've got people like you that are thinking about this so thoughtfully. How how do you explain that gap? And where are you seeing people who were resisting it before kind of accepting it or embracing it, even ideally?
Mm-hmm. I think so. I wrote a post on my blog, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago now, about this idea of resistance and refusal within education. Mm-hmm. And I think in certain corners of education and for the right reasons, there are really good reasons to resist the technology. But the reason is not, I don't know what it is. It's kind of terrifying. It's moving really quickly. I'm going to go over here instead.
Ignorance is not a good reason.
Well, the reason for resistance in education for me is that, so my main method, I'm an English and literature teacher mostly, and then a media drama teacher. So the media side of me, super interested in, this real kind of plastic quality of AI content and what it means now that the internet is filling up with this stuff, and what it means for content creators who can now, create videos, or Google Genie that you mentioned earlier, Kyle, around, building 3D worlds. All of that, super interesting to me as a media teacher. As a literature teacher, I could probably teach 90% of my entire course without a computer, let alone without AI. I want students getting into books. I want them discussing. I want them working together, being really critical. So, I think it's highly contextual. Mm-hmm. And I think what we're seeing with some of the informed resistance from educators, we're seeing people say, actually, this, I don't really need this really techno-driven narrative in this classroom, because it's not super relevant to what I'm trying to teach over here. Mm-hmm. And so what I would say is that, so if I was a literature teacher, if I was in the classroom right now, 80, 90% of my stuff I could probably do offline and do a better job. But then when it comes to teaching, adaptations, digital text, multimodal texts, I'm probably going to have to work with artificial intelligence in that context and teach it really, really well, because artificial intelligence is going to be part of the future of literature and literature studies, whether we want it to or not. So it's about that balance, and it's about that context for me is way more important than whether we ban it or whether we jump in with both feet.
Leon, this is related, but I cannot resist. I need to hear you talk a little bit about your the question marks in your mind around the motivation of OpenAI to roll out study mode. And the reason why I ask is because my first take was, oh, nice try. What a bunch of greenwashing. This is lame. This is some bullshit custom instructions. Why are they doing this? What is the play? So you tell me, what do you think the play is?
Yeah, I'm really cynical. Okay, so let's start there. Particularly of OpenAI, which is interesting because there's great reason to be cynical of Microsoft and Google and every other tech company, but OpenAI in particular, I think they're like this, this yappy little dog that's kind of nipping at the heels of the big tech companies, and they're going for market capture. They're going for as many dollars in the bank as possible. Which is the business model. That's fine. That's them. Yeah. But in education, I think what they've done is very, very canny, very savvy. They've gone at every level of education. Okay, so they know that students are their biggest user base, but students don't have any money. Okay, yep. So students aren't going to bring in the profits. So actually, where in education holds the purse? Well, government. Okay, so let's go to government as well. Okay, who else holds the purse? EdTech. So let's go to Canvas. Let's go to Instructure. Let's get our technology embedded in the learning management system that millions of students are using, because then that'll probably, add a premium onto those instructional licenses. Universities will start paying that bill, and then OpenAI's got a revenue source there.
Yeah.
So when OpenAI released study mode, I saw it. A lot of people were saying, oh, this is OpenAI responding to this problem that all of these students are using it, and they're offering a solution. And it's like, okay, first of all, it's a problem that they created. So creating a problem and then selling the solution is pretty classic tech industry territory. That's nothing new. But then also, it doesn't work very well. Okay, so it doesn't actually solve the problem. Any student who wants to actually get an answer will just turn it off, or never bother turning it on in the first place. So I started to think, so what's the bigger play here? And I think that it's to kind of persuade students, teachers, universities, we're doing the right thing. Yeah. You can invest in our product. We've got your best interests in mind. We empathize. It's classic kind of marketing territory.
Yeah.
Now, over here in Australia, we just had OpenAI in Canberra with our politicians behind closed doors, and they've written a blueprint for AI in Australia, where they've made a 2-page spread recommendation of policy changes for education, and that's where the real game is. It's not this sort of half-assed study mode crap. Yeah. It's what's happening behind closed doors with politicians in countries like Australia and the UK and the US. That's where the interesting stuff's happening.
Can I ask you, Leon? For me, the thing I find most fascinating, if the tactical skills of the tasks of work are increasingly automated with this, what do you think is the most important thing to be teaching right now? Like what should we be preparing our students to leave the workforce? I imagine if you look at what's happened in the past 2.5 years, I can't imagine being a freshman right now, like going into my freshman year and imagining what's the world going to look like 4 years from now. Are you kidding me? Well, I know that, but given that this thing's accelerating, from your point of view, Leon, what do you think are the most important skills to be teaching right now?
I'm pretty old-fashioned, I guess, at this point, which is interesting in my position as someone who's also like right on the front end of artificial intelligence. But I think that there's a lot of narrative around like, AI is going to replace X, Y, and Z skill, and nobody needs to do this anymore because AI can do it. I think there's a lot to be said for valuing some of the really important skills that we already have and that we already teach. I'm a big fan of teaching AI through existing disciplines, for example. Like, you can, in mathematics, teach about algorithms. In English and media studies, teach about critical literacy. So, reinforcing some of those skills, which may seem to have been offloaded to AI already. Like, ChatGPT even, can handle really advanced mathematics by now. Certainly up to a senior secondary level. That doesn't mean we shouldn't teach the foundations so that when students leave, when they start to use these technologies, or as they're using them throughout schooling, they're using them better. And I want us to really resist falling into this trap of saying, because AI can do a certain skill, that skill's not important anymore. Because those skills are still super important. I think it really benefits the technology companies for us to think that those skills aren't important anymore and they can just do it for us. Okay, but that's breeding a whole generation of idiots, isn't it? It's not creating a society where people can actually do things. It's creating a society where people consume things that someone else does for them. So that's a pretty probably conservative answer, and maybe a bit of an old-fashioned answer.
That's why.
My answer is definitely not. Everybody needs to learn AI literacy, though, because you look at the people who are profiting the most from this tech: Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, all of the other white blokes, and they are, none of them had AI literacy courses when they were at school,
right?
And they seem to be doing okay, so I'm told. Elon Musk wasn't sitting in front of a computer in grade 5 learning AI literacy, but he seems to be doing all right from the AI industry. So if we pitch forward a few years, what are the current generation of students? What do they need to be secure in a world that we can't predict? I don't think it's, how to prompt ChatGPT or any of those kinds of skills.
Yeah, that makes good sense.
I am going to ask you my first question, but first I have to just say for the nice people that I think what you just demonstrated is exactly what Kyle and I were talking about, which is the skill of critical thinking. So, when study mode hits the scene, like, it doesn't have to mean everybody go start using study mode. It could mean, why is this thing here? Is it actually good? Do they think we are idiots? And then make
yes.
a decision.
Why, yes, they do.
Yes, they do. If they give us enough pellets, we will stay on ChatGPT for all the hours of the day, and then they can start feeding us ads right into our veins. Okay, Leon, what was the tipping point when you knew you had to go all in on AI, and what happened after that?
Yeah, so I've been playing around with like GPT-2 and GPT-3 from 2021 onwards, just kind of keeping an eye on this stuff. And this was back when I was an English teacher, and I was seeing students start to use these. Remember, like paragraph spinners and Write Sonic and Jasper, and these third-party applications,
sort of wrapper apps.
Like back in the day when GPT-2 and 3 were open source, and so people were building this tech on top of that. And I was keeping an eye on that stuff. And then I applied for my PhD in sort of May, June 2022. Over that year, I did a lot of reading around the ethical concerns and around, the kind of where this stuff was heading. So I was maybe a little bit less surprised than most when ChatGPT came out in November. But at the moment that ChatGPT came out, I thought, right, this is it. We're done. Like my horizon for my PhD was in 3 to 5 years' time, everybody's going to be using this. Bam. And I called my supervisor, I think, and said, sort of 24 hours after ChatGPT was released, I said, it's not 3 years anymore. It's 3 months.
Yeah.
And then we saw over that 3 months that 100 million users piled
100
on.
million
and now
users,
we're up to about, I think we're up to 700 million active users now.
Yep. Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. 100 million in 6 weeks. And the World Wide Web, it took about 6 years to get to 100 million users.
Yeah. So look, early in that process is when I clocked it. And I think that positioned me quite well to help schools in those first few months.
Yeah, for sure.
Have there been, what have been your biggest, we call them Kevin McAllister moments, which probably won't be a reference for you. There's a movie called Home Alone where the kid goes, so like what have been those moments for you where you've used the tool and you've gone, oh, wow, this changes things? Do any of those stick in your mind of moments of just super clarity that something shifted for you?
March 2023 saw the release of GPT-4. So the upgrade from 3.5 to 4. Yeah. And also the release of Claude.
Right.
And for me, that was two things. That was, oh, hey, look, it's not just OpenAI. And there are other companies out there capable of releasing really powerful models, which made me think everyone's going to do it. Okay, this is going to be every single tech company that has access to data, hardware, and money is going to produce one of these things. And the step up from GPT 3.5 to GPT 4, I felt was a step change. It's huge. The multimodality, the image recognition with GPT 4V, the addition of the internet connection. That was like, boom. Everything since then has been kind of lukewarm.
Little incremental. So,
I know that like GPT-5's touted to come out soon, maybe in the next 48 hours or whatever. But I'm kind of, as we know, I'm cynical about OpenAI, but I am hopeful that it's a similar kind of 3.5 to 4 kind of step change rather than a 4 to 4.5 or 4 mini high pro mega tastic.
Exactly.
If they can, to be honest, if they can just get their naming conventions right, that might be significant enough.
Frankly, what they need to do. I mean, the genius of ChatGPT was they buried all the interface of like temperature and choosing models and all that sort of stuff, and then they basically just let it turn back into that in the in the public interface. So hopefully,
this is because this is a technology designed by software nerds,
exactly,
and software devs for other software devs. It's not technology designed for mass consumption, and so they don't. It's like they don't know what it is. Nobody really knows what this product is for.
Well, they inadvertently became a consumer software company overnight. So I give them a little bit of grace, but at this point, it's been 2.5 years. So it's like, hire some marketing people, hire a couple of liberal arts majors, So anyway, so let me jump in and ask your second question. Based on your expertise, and especially given you've got such a clear focus, it's great. What are trends? What's a trend? Or if there are more than one, but what's a trend that you're paying attention to right now and why?
I have been writing a sort of a series of posts, which I call like the near future of AI. And I do it about every 6 months or so, because I sort of refuse to commit to anything further than 6 months. And it was a chapter at the back of the book that I wrote on artificial intelligence, which I'm just going to have to do this because it's right here next to me.
Nice.
Nice.
What a product placement. Look at that. So actually recording some courses and things earlier, so that's why that's sitting there. But the chapter in that book started to talk about increasingly multimodal artificial intelligence. And that sort of multimodal aspect is part of my PhD as well. So that not just, text to image, but image to text with image recognition, text to speech, speech to text, speech to speech now with OpenAI's speech models. And I'm seeing, an increasing trend towards multimodality from all of these organizations, particularly Google and OpenAI. So we're going to see, I think, a confluence, and I think this might happen with GPT-5, a confluence of the video audio generation, speech to speech model, everything all in one place.
Yeah.
And, from my perspective as an educator, that's content on demand territory. That's teachers standing at their desk and says to their computer, oh, hey, I just need a quick video on, cellular structure for year 8 science. And ChatGPT responds, yes, sure. I'll generate that for you right now. And then 3 minutes later, you've got a little short, fully narrated video. I think that's where this stuff is ultimately heading.
Yeah.
And there's a few reasons for that. One is that that's probably where the market wants it to go. And the other is that kind of content is really engaging and persuasive as well. But that would probably be the most useful version of the technology, I think.
Yeah. Do you think we go to a world of hyper-personalized education because of that? Like, what are the implications of the multimodality for you?
The implication is sort of twofold. I wrote this post a few years ago and a few since called Digital Plastic, where I kind of compared this technology to real world plastic. I said like real world plastics, like it's incredibly ubiquitous and growing in volume. And some of it will be good. Like, plastics are great. Plastics are sterile. They're great for medical purposes. You can make prosthetic limbs out of plastics. They're also horrible for the environment. And
look at the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah. And so like the online world's going to be the same. It's going to fill up with all of this garbage. And we're already seeing it on YouTube, on TikTok, and all of these social media channels, AI generated slop filling up everything. So that will be one outcome. Okay. And then the tech companies, they love to talk about personalized learning, but I think what a tech CEO thinks personalized learning is a bit different to what a teacher thinks personalized learning is. One child sitting in front of one computer interacting with a chatbot, whilst a teacher / babysitter kind of negotiates the room like this alpha school thing that you've got in the US. Like, that's not personalized learning. That's isolated learning. That's lonely learning. So I don't want to see it go down that way. But from the media teacher part of me says, oh, this is great. Like content on demand, the ability to build a video game in virtual reality whilst you're in there kind of negotiating this environment. All of this stuff's really exciting to me. So I'm torn, but this is kind of the job that I signed up for.
I love that you said that you're torn. I often find myself like, this is the greatest thing ever. Oh my God, this is terrifying. Like, and you kind of have to hold both of those things as reality, right?
Yeah. All right. So, this is the AI Readiness Project podcast. We have the AI Readiness Program, and Kyle and I chose the word readiness really intentionally because we felt like it's a lot more than AI literacy. That implies there's some kind of an end point, a check mark, a point you've crossed over where now we get to say you're AI literate.
Now you're literate. Yeah.
Or who gets to say that? Like, who's in charge of that? Whereas readiness feels like an existential kind of a way to be. What does AI readiness mean to you? And what would you advise somebody who's just now getting off the sidelines?
It's about being able to engage without immediately feeling overwhelmed and running away. Okay, so
that's a good one.
It's this ability to kind of meet the technology where it is right now, which is overwhelming, and then to just kind of sit with that discomfort for a little while and let it be overwhelming, and then say, okay, I'm overwhelmed, but I'm going to explore anyway. I'm going to step into the more of this beast, and I'm going to see what happens next, just kind of one step at a time. So that for me would be, I'm ready. I'm ready to start engaging with this technology. And, nobody needs to be across every single thing. No. Kyle, when you mentioned Google's Genie 3, I knew about Genie 2, but I didn't know that they'd released an update until I saw you talk about it backstage. Yeah. And I can see that was the 5th of August. So, 48 hours ago for me here in Australia.
Yeah.
So that's understandable. It's fine. And if somebody like me who, it's my full-time job to work with these technologies.
Right. Yes. No. This I talk about this 5 nights a week, and it's regular. Last night on my live, someone goes, "Did you hear about this thing?" I'm like, "No, I just told you 6 things. Apparently, that wasn't enough. There was a 7th one I missed."
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. This was something I struggled with last week in my Back to Basics course. Do you have advice on? Is there a specific tool you think someone should start with if they're just started?
Having just slammed OpenAI for the entire session, just ChatGPT. And not because it's particularly, an ethical technology or it's whatever, but it's probably best in show.
Yeah.
Until further notice, it's the best on the market for what it does. There may be certain other models which do X, Y, and Z better. Claude might be slightly better at writing JavaScript, but who cares? Use the most common one. It's common. It's got high utility. It just generally sort of works 9 times out of 10 now. So unlike Microsoft Copilot, which so go for that one main platform, have a bit of a feel around, start getting comfortable with what this technology looks like.
Beautiful. Love it. Love it. Well, this has been awesome. So this is where the good people can go to find you and what you're up to.
Just leonfurze.com, pretty straightforward. I do have practicalaistrategies.com, which is the online courses for educators primarily, and some for school parents.
And are there links to that at leonfurze.com?
Look, I mean, this is my internet life. There's links for me for everything, for everywhere. I lose track of them. You'll find it somehow.
You'll find it somewhere. Just find you. Start clicking on links, right?
Just stumble across the internet. ChatGPT actually recommends my website quite a lot now. I get a huge volume of traffic via ChatGPT.com apparently.
Wow, did you optimize it for AEO or GEO or really?
No, I don't have any time. I never even bothered with SEO, so
me neither.
Way out of the game.
I know.
SEO, AI, AIEO. That's
exactly
just vowels, just lists of vowels.
Yeah. I mean, if someone is lucky enough to find me on the internet, good for them.
I've got a really weird name. So that's it, really. I leverage the fact that I've got an unusual name. No one,
that helps. Yeah. Leon, it was so nice to meet you and to learn more about you and your perspective. I find it utterly refreshing that you can hold on to both ends of the spectrum so capably. And also your writing is so fun to read, and these are heavy topics, and it's really nice when it's just a delightful it's like your blogs are like, sit down, get a cup of coffee, enjoy Leon's blogs for a little while. So nice job.
Thank you very much. No, that was a lot of fun. Thanks for the
invitation. Yeah, beautiful. And thanks for getting up early. I know it's bright and early where you are, and I don't even.
Hey, my kids will wake me up at 5 a.m.
Well, this is awesome. Thank you so much. And
thanks, Leon. Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.